Hey, Cyberspace Nathan Wallace coming at you from the Cybercritical Engineering offices outside New Orleans, Louisiana, with another CyberAware tip of the day. Today's topic is the cloud. Basically, is it evil? Well, to do this, we're going to look at pros and cons, right? So, pro, recovery. In the cloud, it's pretty easy using the native software that's already included in your cloud service provider, the software to basically schedule regular backups. So this is backup as far as the server, a file server, web server, whatever server you're running, as well as automated backups of the actual data, right? So recovery, flexibility. If you grant access, let's say if you grant access to the entire WAN, then bam, anyone and everyone can access it. Whereas if it was on site or on premise, then you're going to have to figure out, okay, how do I get it through my firewall, through my control center? How do I do proper segmentation? So it's just the time it takes and expertise it takes to do that on site. It's a little bit more flexible in the cloud, as well as flexibility on how can you manage and kind of arrange and set up your network, right? Well, you can do that all via software, all via the dashboard, and all via the cloud service provider's interface. You don't need some third-party software that you would, let's say, you would need locally on site to figure out and configure the actual network to lay it out. 3, security, pro, right? It is a pro, right? The cybersecurity, protecting it, locking it down. It is honestly easier to do that in the cloud, and the reason is because once again, everything is kind of built in natively. You can see things. You can visualize access all the way, all the logs. You can segment, you can whitelist, and you don't need all this other third-party stuff that you would necessarily need on site. Cost. Initially, the cost of starting in the cloud, really cheap. So as you get more things, I think you can get all the way up to like 10 or so, depending on the actual utilization, CPU utilization, RAM, bandwidth, etc. It's still relatively cheap, versus having to buy a whole new piece of hardware, whole new computer, set up VMs in your own center, as well as cooling, right? You don't have to worry about cooling costs, the maintaining proper air conditioning in your data center. Cons, internet connected. So if your application warrants, only a couple people talking to it, then maybe the cloud's not perfect or not ideal. So there's a lot of risk around being internet connected. Some people actually view this as a pro, right? Depending on the application. New technology. Just like with anything new, there is a learning curve. So you need to make sure that if you implement the cloud, either you're watching a lot of videos, going through some training, going through some certifications, or you're using someone who has experience with the cloud, right? Security, yes, once again, it is a con. It's a pro and a con. 2 examples. Meltdown Inspector actually went after, not necessarily went after, but it showed a vulnerability as far as virtualization technology, right? So a lot of cloud service providers use virtualization to facilitate their services. Cost. Yes, once again, it's a pro and a con. Con in the sense of as you begin to scale out, as you begin to get bigger, your product, your service, whatever you're offering that uses the cloud, or even you yourself use the cloud, as you get scaled out, basically you're using more resources, you're going to be using more bandwidth. If you host a website, using the cloud, your first couple years or months or whatever, people are talking to it, but there's not a whole lot of bandwidth utilization, so it's going to be pretty cheap. But as soon as you start, if you make the next Facebook or LinkedIn website, Twitter, what have you, all of a sudden, right, your cost for running in the cloud is going to skyrocket. And the reason is because it's based on bandwidth, RAM utilization, and storage, etc. So hopefully this is helpful. For more tips and tricks, check out staysafeonline.org, or you can check out our website, cybercritical.com. Cyber safely.